6 days since Richard vanished from the barracks. I hope you all can hear me. Um, and I'm going to talk about platoon leaders again because this is huge. This is very, very big. Very. There's so many things about this case that are big, that are huge, that are can change our society. And I'm not exaggerating because you will see when I explain everything that's going on. This is a very big case, and that's why it's being ignored. Let me see here, try to get to it. Make sure everything is running. See if I can see myself here. Okay. So I'm sorry it's really late. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for paying attention. Because this is really groundbreaking. Um, uh, we we were we were checking with our sources and added one more that says that Dallas Hart was Richard's platoon leader in Delta Battery 143. So we have multiple sources now that say Dallas Hart was the platoon leader. I know I put in there XO. Y'all, I have never served in the military. I never, I'm learning all of this as I go. We don't have a big staff. It's just our family and friends, Team Fine Richard Halliday, and people, caring people that have been helping and that have corrected um, certain understandings and everything as we go along in here. That's military speak. So I really, really appreciate it. And I've asked people to, you can send a message to 941-677-0060 to let me know certain information that will help us find Richard, but also correct me when I'm wrong. And that's why I come on every day. I come on every day. I'd like to come on even more. I'd like to come on even earlier in the day. But things are really rolling. They require a lot of work. And here I am. It's 11:25 p.m. I'm just coming on right now because things are happening behind the scenes that require concentration, a lot of work, and other investigation. And like this, that Dallas Hart, we have multiple sources that say Dallas Hart was first uh, first lieutenant and platoon leader. He's a former first lieutenant now. Platoon leader for Richard Halliday. Now, why is this important? This is so important because what does a platoon leader do? What are the responsibilities of a platoon leader? And so I looked it up. This is that research. I looked it up because I want to know, excuse me. I want to know what a platoon leader responsibility is. Because here we have multiple sources saying that Dallas Hart was Richard's first platoon leader. So I don't know why I want to say first sergeant, but anyway, platoon leader. It's he was an officer, he was an NCO. So, what does a platoon leader do? If you're in my situation, you need to look it up. So, the very first thing that comes up is duty of care. Maybe I should share this. Maybe I should share this. Let's see if I can manipulate this a little bit to get this there front and center. I hope you can see it. But it says here, the platoon leader is responsible for the well-being, safety, and welfare of the soldiers under their command. They have a duty to ensure that soldiers are accounted for, properly trained, and supported in their duties. Wow. So I'm going to tell you right now, platoon leader Dallas Hart, uh, I wouldn't pick him to be a platoon leader because he didn't even honor the UCMJ, which means you cannot have an incestuous affair, which is illegal, right, with your brother when you are a platoon leader, when you are an active duty military. And Leilani Hart confessed in her complaint to the CID that was notarized. I talked to the notary public that had it in his hands that said it was the 22nd of July, 2020 when it was notarized. Um, so, and she confessed that her son, while he was in uh, in the military, right there in Delta Battery 143 ADA. Now she didn't say that. I'm saying, well, maybe she did say it, but she's saying while he is in uniform, he is having an incestuous relationship with his brother. So that's in that CID notarized that Dallas Hart, as an adult, is having that kind of relationship, and that's illegal. Okay, so why would that's why, I don't know if that's why he was quietly forced out. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, they have to ensure soldiers are accounted for. Well, you know, um, did he do that with Richard? Were his soldiers properly trained? Did he, were they supported in their duties? If he's not even doing his duty, then how can he support his soldiers doing their duty? See, this is the problem that I have, that we have with the 44 four-star generals and admirals that are working for foreign and domestic enemies instead of defending our Constitution, the land, and the people. And I'll even put a huge concern up tonight about that. So yeah, how can they, if they're not doing their duty, how can they be an example to our service members? The second is incident reporting. If an incident occurs involving a soldier, such as a disappearance or suspicious circumstances, the platoon leader is obligated to report it promptly and accurately to the appropriate authorities, such as the unit's chain of command or the criminal investigative command. Well, I maintain, I have suspicion suspicion that that was interfered with, that there was tampering and interference in Richard's case. because of Special Agent Tavita Nusa being compromised with Leilani Hart, and Dallas Hart being compromised by his mother. Absolutely. So um, we'll see. We'll see if they investigate that. Cooperation investigations. A platoon leader is expected to fully cooperate with any investigations conducted by the CID or relevant law enforcement agencies. This includes providing information, assisting in the identification of witnesses, and ensuring the preservation of any evidence related to the incident. No wonder this is a botched investigation. No wonder. Because let me tell you, we suspect Dallas Hart. We suspect Leilani Hart. And tomorrow, I'm hoping that I can read it off. All of our suspicions. Next one is a support to family. The platoon leader should provide support and assistance to the soldier's family. We weren't even notified during a challenging time. This may involve maintaining regular communication, providing updates on the investigation's progress, and coordinating any necessary support services for the family. Where was the platoon leader? Where was the platoon leader? Wow. There was a lot of collusion going on behind the scenes. That's all I have to say. Accountability and oversight. The platoon leader is responsible for maintaining accountability within their platoon, including soldiers and their equipment. There's missing. Richard's personal items are not all there, y'all. There's missing stuff. And there's missing stuff more. This includes ensuring that weapons, personal belongings, and other equipment are properly inventoried, secured, and accounted for. Interesting. Leadership and guidance. A platoon leader should provide leadership, guidance, and support to the soldiers under their command. In the case of an incident involving a soldier, this may involve providing emotional support, addressing any concerns or issues within the platoon, and ensuring a cohesive and supportive environment for the soldiers. Wow. Okay. This leaves you speechless, absolutely speechless, because that you need to. I'm talking for us in Richard Halliday's case, we need to get busy, and we are, and I wish we could have been much earlier on all of this, but because the CID didn't notify us that our son is a whistleblower, that they kept information from us. Other than that, also, that, and then they conducted a smear campaign on Richard. And the CID, they're absolutely responsible for the disappearance of our son. So if you're wondering why is this taking so long, because it's that big. Because the very agencies that are commissioned, supported, given everything to do their duty, to make sure the law is enforced, they're the ones that are responsible for the disappearance of Richard. It really is. We have forensic evidence. We have so much So what should we put forward first, right? And we're doing that. So I will take some questions now, and I'm thinking that I need to just get busy and complete everything because after reading through this again out loud, I read through it. I'm reading through it out loud. I'm like, oh my goodness, I better get busy. So I will look at the comments. Thank you, Anicia. Here listening, Patty. Computer down, but on my phone. Thank you, Marcia. Prayers for. Can you believe this, Marcia? Can you believe that we have trillions of dollars and all of our goodwill and all of our, want and will to respect and support these leaders in our military, that they would be this corrupt, this evil, and betray us on the level that they have betrayed us? It is so criminal, absolutely so criminal. And when the character of my dad, like Marcia does, the character of my husband, the character of my father-in-law, and how they would never have let something like this happen under their command, under their leadership. It is something's going on, y'all, that's creating this suicidal culture, leadership that's in our military. Something's going on. And I wanted to play this for you. Oh, I left this on. See if I can get this on here.
In the US and China, asking what is the most aspirational career that you want to have. And the US, the number one was...
I'm going to, oh, yeah, that was pretty
Apple
good.
Products.
They
share it with
was like
you and me
social
on
media
television. They
influencer.
think we're not going to notice. They think we're dumb. They have no respect for us, actually. And
let's see.
Pandemic year. Most people, their lives
sticking your head in the sand either.
On that program, and they tell us that.
Let me see if I can get it to where I wanted it. About China. Yeah, I think it's just here. Here it is.
Joe Biden seemed to be rolling over and not doing much about it. Not implementing extraordinary measures to defend ourselves. Yes, Gordon Chang. He's going to be joining us in a little bit. This is, I think, probably the most important analyst in America right now.
I think that a war in Asia on the first day will be fought on American soil because we'll have Chinese saboteurs. They'll be going after our grid, going after our reservoirs, detonating bombs in shopping centers. Xi is getting Chinese society, both civilian and military, ready for war. He is mobilizing China's civilians, Chinese industry, Chinese agriculture, and we could be at war at any time.
How about that? And why does Joe Biden seem to be rolling?
Okay, so I thought that was very important, and I wanted to talk about that in regards to Richard's case, what we have in 1,046 days experienced, really 1,010 days, because we didn't know until 36 days. We weren't notified. We weren't even, the protocols were not followed. The standard operating procedures for the barracks are not followed, and protocols are not taken seriously. And so what have we learned in 1,010 days? We've learned that our military, I believe, is, what do you call it? A slow attack or a stealth attack? Or it's not stealth because we can see it. We can see it. And this is this sex culture is part of it. This asymmetric warfare tactic that's used on our own, our military operations used on our own, and that is, matter of fact, I need to write that down. Asymmetric warfare tactics and military operations used in this case, absolutely. And they're being used. You saw that with the FBI, that the FBI was weaponized against our own, right? Absolutely our own. And I'm telling you, in our military, the military has been, leadership has weaponized itself against their own service members. That's why they committed crimes against humanity, against their own service members, against their own country, the people and the land. That's why you had whistleblower after whistleblower being retaliated against. And also, I think at this point, because of everything that we've experienced over these 1,000 days, that one of the asymmetric warfare tactics is to suicide our soldiers. Now that we were made aware of that by Elder Fernandez's family when we talked to that family. And I did not believe her. I did not believe their family. I did not think, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. If they believe that their son was trained to suicide, if their son was retaliated unto suicide. I did not take what she said lightly or as like something that could not be possible. It hit me very hard, and I've thought about it ever since. And I'm not the only one that took her word seriously. I think she needs to have a PhD, an honorary PhD given to her for her insight. Because I believe what they tried to do with Richard is to train him to suicide, to retaliate against him so severely and continuously that they would hope that he would commit suicide. I think that's an asymmetric warfare tactic. I think that's a military operations tactic. At this point, it's so evil, it's so demonic, and our leadership is absolutely not defending the Constitution, the land, and the people, not doing their duty, their obligations to care for their soldiers and to train them well. We don't have the Medal of Honor ethos being trained. We don't have the Good Samaritan being trained. We do not have the esprit de corps. And it's very being trained. And I'm not saying it's 100%. I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule. I'm hoping there's exceptions to the rule. I'm saying it is, you only need 20% to do major harm, to have victory, right? So and that goes both ways. We need 20% of people to start paying attention, to call out our military leadership, our government leadership, our Department of Justice leadership, and maybe it's a smaller percentage than that, to have victory, to have a real victory, to make big changes. And I hope that people are do not need something like this to happen to them to start paying attention. But it's getting to the point with the crimes against humanity, with the train to suicide, all the suicides that are going on. I mean, in El Paso, we were told that they are number one right now. They are number one on suicides, and that families have to deal with their service members being sexually harassed, sexually assaulted, um, having PTSD, getting on, illegal drugs, getting off of illegal drugs, using legal drugs that even harm them also, and um, and then the alcohol abuse, the sex cults, the um, getting into racketeering, getting into selling equipment, especially in El Paso, especially Fort Bliss, being right there on the border with Mexico. It's very lucrative to take that equipment that you're responsible for and sell it over in Mexico and you know make profit off of that, and then your accountability, you can cook the books easy. um, that's all happening for years and years. I was talking to another source and they were like, oh, that's been happening for years and years and years. And I think that it has just grown and grown and grown because nothing has been done about it. Say something, see something, say something, fraud, waste, and abuse hasn't worked. It hasn't worked because there's no accountability. There's no accountability because it's so profitable. And so the billions of dollars were never enough for the military. The millions of dollars were never enough for the military. Then it turned into billions of dollars were never enough for the military. Now it's into the trillions of dollars um, in support of our military, and it's never enough. And then you have the audits that show trillions of dollars missing, unaccounted for, and we have the miners there on Fort Bliss, thousands of them also unaccounted for, and then creating a child care crisis in the El Paso area. And then the DOD has to subsidize child care. And then Lalani Hart decides, ooh, well, maybe I should do that. Um, and then a 7-year old, she confesses that in her household, a 7-year old of a service member was being raped in her master bedroom by multiple members of her household, and that she was in possession of child pornography for long periods of time in her household, which are, those are all crimes. They're not even like easygoing crimes, or just they are just demonic type of crimes. They are just the worst type. With leaders like this, as a platoon leader, who needs enemies? With leaders like this, as 44 4-star generals are, who needs enemies? You see? And so yeah, so I'm not one to listen to narratives of the war drumming and our threats and all of that, because we know that those can be all like part of a business plan, this psyop of a business plan. Let's break a couple windows, let's fear monger, let's do this, and then people will be afraid, and then we can take power over them or whatever. It's we have seen that this has happened all through history, and this psyops always happens before all the other stuff. So I'm not one to listen to it so much as to be afraid to make me try to change. But with this knowledge of the military and that we're not ready, I don't think China is our problem. I think our leaders are our problem, right? I think our leaders are, they are working for foreign and domestic enemies. We're already infiltrated. We're already at war in this country. And the Chinese don't even have to step a foot onto this land because we have major leaders, major CEOs there right now, um, and they could do the bidding. We have major companies that could do the bidding. We have our 44 four-star generals and admirals that could do their bidding because they have no interest in defending our Constitution. Where are they? Right? And then we have the likes of the leadership that Richard was under that retaliated against him continuously and swiftly and severely. And Clem Coward, Major General Clem Coward, he lost his command. Lieutenant Colonel Michael Roddick, he lost his command. What was going on? Why weren't we told all this? So there might be some exceptions, but with leaders like that, what they did to Richard, and then to have the CID cover it up and intimidate witnesses and tamper with evidence. We have the tampering of evidence. We believe, I'll let you know all of that tomorrow, how that is. The setups, absolutely the retaliatory setups. And this method of training to suicide, hoping that you can make their life so miserable that they will just go off and commit suicide. But Richard didn't do that. And so of course, he is presumed to be murdered at this point, and them hiding his body, which that sounds about right, that they're hiding his remains. And we want his remains. And we have Nadal Baim, the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado, that is practically told us that they were hiding Richard's remains because, shh, 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 they found him. He's dead. Shh. Why is that a secret, right? That means they're hiding his remains. That's what that means. So these are not coincidences that we have an officer of the court that files a CID complaint and more, and there's no interest in talking to him. I mean, we have almost a year and a half that goes by. I mean, we have the guard mount issue, and there's no urgency to clean up. We have a first lieutenant committing incest, and where are the charges? Where's the arrest? We have the rape of a 7-year-old of a service member, and that is just like covered up. Who's involved in Richard's case that is gone this far without a proper investigation? It's just a botched investigation. That's a really good question. So anyone that is involved still enlisted, or were they allowed their retirement? It looks like they were allowed their retirement. I think, where's Jay Pollan in all of this? So I don't think we know everything. Absolutely, we don't know everything. But we're inquiring. we're inquiring a lot. A lot's going on behind the scenes, and it's making complaints. Everything that we have found out, we have to put on paper. It takes time, and to submit those complaints, those criminal complaints, over and over and over again, because there's so many. There's so many. I have to say it twice because it's hard for even um, to comprehend the truth of this huge crime. So I just want for everyone 2-3 days. I want everyone to understand Richard is a yellow Interpol. That doesn't make any sense. He also is in cold case. That doesn't make any sense because this case is hot, hot, and deep. And there should be media all over this. There should be investigations all over this. There should, yeah, it is just not a cold case. And so he is a yellow Interpol. He's in cold case. And then he gets, they make him out to be this quintessential, try to get this false narrative out there that we've debunked. Right? It was so absurd. So absurd. His friends and family knew it was absurd. And they tried to get this false narrative, and we just didn't go away. We decided to have Richard's back, have some esprit de corps, be a good Samaritan for our son, who had been battered and worse by thugs, absolute thugs, and worse. So we decided to have his back. And of course we would. And we have found out since that he's a whistleblower, and he's been promoted twice, once in December of 22, and then again 4 months later in April of 2023. I think that all of the information that we have vindicates Richard from the smear campaigns. And so now we need to move forward to who murdered him. Who murdered him? Who covered this up? Who is continuing to cover this up? Who is continuing to steal Richard's identity, to steal the family's identity? Who is still tampered with evidence? Tampered with time? Right? Who did that? Who intimidated witnesses? Who intimidated a prime witness? Who did that? And I'm just happy that they did not intimidate our sources, our multiple sources that have confirmed that Dallas Hart was Richard's platoon leader, not the XO, the platoon leader. Okay, there was, I know that I've mentioned XO before, but no, we've confirmed that they were talking about the platoon leader. Dallas Hart was Richard's platoon leader. That gave him access to the crime scene. That gave Dallas Hart access to the crime scene, okay, which is the barracks room. That gave access then to Richard's belongings, to Richard's weapons. That gave access to Dallas Hart to the CID. That gave Dallas Hart access to tamper with the investigation. And we, we know there's video that's tampered with, video that's missing. Yeah. So this is a little bit longer process because it's so much information, and we don't. And I want to make sure that everyone understands this because I didn't fully. I've been so careful to try to be 100% on everything. But you know what? I don't have to be 100%. That is for the law enforcement agencies to figure out. I just have to have a reasonable suspicion. And I have a reasonable suspicion. And there needs to be a real investigation. And so I want everyone to learn about that. And I'm going to post it on Moms, that do not be afraid if you know that your loved one is missing, murdered, maligned, and you're fighting for justice for your loved one. You just have to have a reasonable suspicion to put in a criminal complaint. And that was very freeing, because I have so many reasonable suspicions that I will be sharing with you. And I think tomorrow my live stream will be called The Reasonable Suspicions, right? Reasonable suspicions. So, and we're just going through all of our material, having stuff to back it up, why we suspect that this happened. But I think that you can figure it out if you read First Lieutenant Dallas's Hart as Richard's platoon leader, what that gave him power over Richard's case. That gave him a lot of power over Richard's case. And he could easily give that power over to Leilani Hart. And if Leilani Hart also has blackmail material or whatever, because they were doing that child porn, they were, had a 7-year-old being raped in her master bedroom. I mean, and listen to this. It took her almost 2 years to even report it. It's not like, oh my gosh, this happened and I am going to send all of you to jail. Okay? It was allowed. She allowed it. And it took almost 2 years for her to report that child being raped by multiple members of her household in her master bedroom. And we don't know how many times it happened. So, and with the child porn and, her sons, adult sons, engaged in incest with one another, incest. If that's just the tip of the iceberg, what else is there that needs to be investigated? So this is a reasonable suspicion, and there is so many. You can see if you have Special Agent Tavita Nusa and Special Agent Soto being like, "Well, this is my buddy. This is my buddy, Special Agent Tavita Nusa." And then Ron Stieg, "Oh, my buddy, Jay Paulin." When you see that kind of conflict of interest, and that Leilani Hart was having an affair with Tavita Nusa while they were married to other individuals, um, you know, there is a reasonable suspicion that they are up to no good. They are up to no good. And Richard was reporting them. That is a reasonable suspicion. Where is the CPS? All they have to do is give us a CPS complaint. If it's that would clear up a lot, right? But we still don't have that FOIA answered. We're still waiting. So I was deployed. Clarence Allen, you were deployed with Richard? Can you tell us what was going on in Delta Battery 143? Are you in the military? Are you afraid of retaliation? Are you afraid? I would like, I would, I know when I see something like that, I've been waiting a long time, Clarence, for someone to come on and say something like that. Please call 941 284 6750. Oh, sorry. 941 677 0060. Yeah, please call that number. That would be so helpful. Absolutely. I just know that he was a great soldier. Oh my gosh, I'm going to screenshot that. That's what they all say. And he was a whistleblower. And they wanted to shut him up. They wanted to shut him up. Okay. Well, I'll let you think about it. We do have, I will mention, we have a $150,000 reward for any information, credible information that leads to finding Richard. Of course, we believe he's presumed dead. We have the witness testimony that he is dead by Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado's father-in-law. We also have the autopsy reports that they will not confirm or deny of Richard's partial remains being identified in different locations, and that they tried to mess with his remains so that they were unidentifiable. And we've got to stop this kind of stuff, y'all. We've got to stop this. And I think one way to stop it is to stop being afraid. Because, you see, you give them an inch, they take a mile. You give them an inch, you don't carry out justice, you allow the perpetrators to get away with this kind of stuff, and we will descend very quickly into the darkest of dark, where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. We have to have courage. We have to be the good soldiers. We have to be really the full armor of God, the soldiers. And this is for of course, the glory of God, but for our service members, because they're, I believe, under great threat because their 44 four-star generals and admirals do not care a flip about them. Not a flip. Otherwise, I would have gotten a phone call by now. Where was General Garrett? General McConville put together a stage task force, find Richard Halliday, with 15 plus agencies and showed up. All military showed up out of uniform without an op ord. No operational order. Maybe the operational order was to hold a stage task force. I would like to see that op ord for inviting and paying for these 15 plus law enforcement agencies that we pay trillions of dollars for. And yet, for the search for Richard, there was no op ord. You know why? Because we have autopsy reports that say they already had found his remains as early as the 29th. Even some of them say 28th of July. Because Red Rio Range, they found a few days of remains there. And so, and that was at the end of July 2020 and in the early part of August 2020. And we're talking about, the fall of 2020 when all they could care about was COVID, instead of thinking about the service members. No, they were engaged in crimes against humanity. Let's say it, because that's what it is. That's what it is. And I witnessed it. And I witnessed it in Mexico. So, yeah. My goodness. Dallas Hart, Richard's platoon leader. And I just read through what their obligations are, what their duty is. And my goodness, that gave him access to Richard's case, the crime scene, which is Richard's barracks room, Richard's possessions, belongings, to the narrative, and to the soldiers, to intimidate them, to influence them, to lie to them if need be. All that needs to be. I have reasonable suspicion yeah. And